Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to Talking Tortillas, presented by Tech and Tortillas. That's Tech letter N Tortillas. I'm Dylan, your host, and with me today is Connor and Troy. Connor, how you doing?
Living the dream, Mr. Dillon. How about yourself?
Oh, I can't complain, man. I can't complain. Troy, how about yourself?
Man, I'm doing well. Just got back from a decent drive from Houston, so glad to be off the road.
Yeah, I hear you there. Sometimes, maybe it'll be a quick little drive, especially I think you told me you made a day trip, so there and back, yeah, it can get a little tiring, I guess, right?
Sure
Well,
can,
y'all
but
want to hear
we
what
made it happen. What's that, Connor?
y'all want to hear what I had to do yesterday? I had to drive from Fort Worth to Houston and then Houston to San Antonio all in one day.
Oh, man.
That's quite the haul.
Needless to say, getting through that game last night was definitely a stretch for me.
Yeah, and Connor's right. We'll dive right into that first topic. That game last night, guys. Tech and Baylor, quite a roller coaster of emotions, to say the least. The final was 79-73. Baylor got the best of our Red Raiders. I'll start with you, Connor. The lack of size really seemed to hurt there, didn't it?
I mean, yeah, we knew that going into the game, right when we found out Washington was out. No one over 6'8", that was going to hurt us, and we saw that right away. We couldn't get a dang rebound. So, I mean, that set us off the wrong foot, and then getting in foul trouble early, that definitely just hurt us going through the rest of the game.
Yeah, you're right. Like we kind of known this the whole season. We talked about it in our season preview, actually, the lack of size and the lack of depth at that position. You have, I mean, Washington either one get in foul trouble or like last night, not even play. You're really gonna get hurt, right? But Troy, I'll jump to you because, with Washington out, we did see kind of what do the Red Raiders look like if either Washington is limited or not playing. What do you think of the Jennings-Lindsey combo? How do you think they played?
Yeah, so both are decently young players, and I thought with Jennings, he just seemed initially like he needed a basket to go in, and he got that, but it was in foul trouble super early. Same thing with Lindsey, but he got it going a little bit. There was definitely, I think, a difference when he was off the court, just because he was our physical presence. Not that we did super well in the paint because they had a bunch of rebounds, but I liked what he brought to the table. I think if he can get a little more consistent in the key with finishing, I like what he can be, and I really liked Lindsey's energy. He brought a good physicality and just hustle to him, and he didn't really have to make too many decisions on the offense end of the ball. I know he did have a couple of points, and I think he knew what his role is. He got in. I think he did the most with his minutes, and we got our favorite clip of the night with him and Coach McCaslin giving a fist bump. So obviously you could tell Grant was very pleased with him. He got minutes probably that he hasn't got all season, right? And I think he did exactly what the team needed him to. So I thought that was very encouraging and good minutes for him as well.
Yeah, I mean, I think you hit the nail on the head there with we got out of him what kind of the Red Raiders needed to in that game, right? He came in, he had a lot of energy. Sure, like the stat sheet didn't show it. Up until the end, when he got in foul trouble, he was playing high energy, he was playing good defense. But I think that's why you saw him get out of the game, because he had a few mistakes defensively at the end, only because he was trying not to pick up that last foul. And I think McCaslin realized, like, okay, we can't kind of have that. But on the Jennings side of things, I think Jennings, every time he plays, it's almost like a chicken with its head cut off. Like there's just all this energy, chaotic, like movement everywhere. It's always fun and good to watch, but then the end product is maybe just lacking a little. Like he just misses the finishes, might go in chaotic on a rebound. Just he has great energy and he brings great energy. It's just he needs to, put that final product together. But Connor, what were your thoughts? Were you kind of pleased with the big men? I know obviously they didn't get all the rebounds they needed, but do you think they showed some promise for the future maybe?
Yeah, I think there's a lot of heart in this game given the situation that's been happening the last week with the team with the flu going around. I mean, we got word. There's a report coming out today that even McCaslin got bit with it.
Yeah.
So I think there was a ton of heart, and I think there's a lot to look forward to. It's just still, we go back to what I was saying earlier. Like it really hurt us not having anyone over 6'8" on the floor, but it shows that we can be scrappy down low. And when there's 50-50 balls are up for play, I think we're able to win a couple of those now.
Yeah. And speaking of scrappy, Troy, I'll go to you. Joe Tucson, I mean, we'll always, no matter what, even when he's playing bad or good, we'll always say he's scrappy. He looked really good last game. Do we think, he's back? Is this going to continue through the Big 12 play? Because we really needed to see a game like this, right?
Yeah, I think that was really encouraging to see Joe get back on track. I think that he had a couple of baskets when it felt like we were getting kicked to kind of ease everybody. And so I thought he was able to help us get back in games at points. And so that was good. Had a decent amount of assists. So he felt like that veteran leader that we really needed in that situation. And so I thought he brought what we needed to the table because I didn't think it was necessarily going to be a close game by any means, just knowing what we had going into it with the size. And so I thought it was encouraging to see Joe get back on track. That being said, we saw a couple others get off track, and so not so encouraging there. But I mean, how did you think Joe did?
Yeah, I mean, I think Joe played really strong. Again, I say scrappy because he brings all that high energy, and he's kind of the same where he'll make a lot of mistakes with that energy, like barreling down at the end of the game, running straight through somebody, or losing his dribble every now and then because he's going 100 miles an hour. But I mean, he was hitting the shots that we've seen him consistently miss the last few games, right? And he definitely was a positive in this game, whereas I would argue in the previous games, maybe it wasn't, the best thing to have him at the court at the time. So I was happy with his play. I just hope it's consistent down the road because that's the kind of guy you thought you were bringing in when we brought him in this year. Yeah, Connor, I know with Joe playing like that, Troy said some people fell off a little bit. I think the team is starting to play like maybe, we're feeling Big 12 play is probably the best way to put it. Right? We got very high up at the beginning of the season because we were playing so well, but, we're not a top 10, 15 roster in the country, right? So we're going to feel these aches and pains. Connor, with that being said, what do you kind of see as your rest of the season outlook? Where will the Red Raiders finish up?
Man, here's the thing. I think the big key piece, and I think it's also the obvious one, is Pop needs to be more consistent. If he's more consistent, I think we can finish the rest of the year. I think we can get at least win 3 out of 4 games for the rest of the year in Big 12 play. I think Pop needs to be more consistent, get our team healthy again. I think there's a lot of scrappiness on this team. And the players love McCasland. They believe in him. So I think they bought into the program and his scheme. So as long as we're healthy and we have a consistency, I think we can finish out pretty strong and go into the tournament with a higher seed.
Yeah, Troy.
That's being optimistic. Very optimistic.
Hey, we're always optimistic, and I'll kind of agree a little bit there because the schedule is pretty favorable with some of the teams we have to play. Don't get me wrong, there's tough games. It's the Big 12, right?
100%.
But there are some of the beatable teams that we think we should top left on the schedule. Troy, what about you? What do you think?
I think given this game, there's a couple of things that stood out to me. And I just think that, they can obviously get frustrating when you don't put everything into context. And one thing that I thought was funny before I touch on some of those things was like, I was following Noren Sodiase last night, and I don't know if he was embrace debating himself or what was going on, or if he was trying to prove a point, but he started listing off of a bunch of reasons and excuses basically, and relatively true, right? No 5 stars, no drafted players probably, X, Y, and Z. And then he follows up with a tweet around, I'm tired of hearing excuses. All facts do not matter in terms of what we're trying to accomplish. And I think that's a hard pill to swallow. We're trying to be great. McCaslin's first season here. We don't have necessarily the most talented roster. And so where are we trying to go? But I think, obviously we have to have foundational building blocks to get there. And so do I think we have pieces? Yes. Do I think we got off to a really hot start in the Big 12? Yes. Are we having that hard pill to swallow right now? Yeah. So we'll see what happens. As far as just a couple of key points last night, we didn't do enough in some of the critical areas when you think about rebounding, second chance points. The amount of points they had in the paint says 36 to 20. I mean, they were just eating in the paint, right? And that goes back to the size. The fouls, you could tell that was another thing with being undersized, right? And so it's just going to be hard. I mentioned foul trouble, that we really hadn't seen that, I think, on our second episode. And guess what? We've now dealt with it in 2 games. And what does it look like? Crap, right? We can't deal with it. And it's just goes to show our size deficiency and what happens when we kind of get in those situations. With that being said, the young players are getting great minutes and they're going to continue to develop. But it's hard to look at right now and, be happy with 3 losses. They've been close. So that's the other thing. We said scrappy. Like, yeah, they are scrappy. Those games felt like blowouts, and we lost by, what was it, 6 and 5 the last 2 games. And they were probably larger deficits, obviously, but they don't go down without a fight. They have good energy. And I think that's also part of the reason why we've won a few games this year that we probably shouldn't have. And so, that's kind of my take on some of the other key points in this game. But relative to the outlook for the rest of the season, like Connor said, I think we can get a few more wins. And if we do, great. Let's get to 20, 22 wins, 23 wins, make the tournament and get some really good experience and correct some of the pieces that we need to and keep building with a program that Grant has been doing so far. It's been a really good season, I think, everything considering.
Yeah, and one more thing. I saw a statistic on Twitter, and I'm not saying this team is anywhere near the 2018 and 2019 teams, but those teams both lost consecutive games in Big 12 play, 3 and 4. Not saying this is the same team, but we need to take a step back and also realize what we're dealing with right now, and it's okay. It's a hiccup in the road. It's not what we want to see, but moving forward, I believe in Grant to put us on the right track.
I mean, hey, that's definitely good, Connor, bringing the optimism back. Sorry, I was still dissecting kind of what Troy was saying. It was he could be in politics later in life, man. He took me through a roller coaster on that answer, and he even talked about Noren's Oriate doing a embrace debate with himself, and then Troy asked and answered his own questions like he was Oriate. So I was pretty impressed with that. I was like, dang, let's let Troy cook right now. He's on a roll.
Odiase Dementia 2024.
I know. Troy took that lesson real well. But yeah, it's funny because it hasn't felt good recently. It really hasn't. But I still am optimistic. I looked at the rest of the schedule. Of course, me getting all excited. I'm like, hey, we could finish, I don't know, 12-6 in Big 12 play, 23-8. I think that would put you at. Hey, that's a high. That would be a very high seed. Again, that's best case scenario, I would think. But
and that would exceed expectations going to this year. So, I mean, I would be very happy with that.
100%. We were just praying to make the tournament this year at the beginning of the year. So things have definitely turned up. And I think to get into the tournament from the Big 12, you probably just need 8 conference wins. You can go 8-10. I mean, we're 2 away from doing that, or what, 3 away from doing that. So you're right there, and you still play your UCF twice, and obviously Longhorns at home. We dominate the Longhorns, right? So who even cares about that game? But yeah, I think there's reason to still be optimistic. And to both of your points, the young guys are getting minutes, so they should be developing. It was good to see them play in a kind of high stakes, high leverage game there too. That will bring us to our next topic. I've kind of let the show get off the rails in the last few episodes by letting people get into ref talk. And I haven't learned my lesson because I'm going to do that again. Kelvin Sampson was ejected in the Houston game. There we go again with another Big 12 referee story. Troy, I'll kick it to you first. It's funny, right, that it seems like every day there's a Big 12 game, we're talking about the refs. I mean, is this just going to be like what it's going to be like the whole season?
Yeah, I'd like to think it's not, but it reminds me of Leslie Nelson's gif where what is it? It's not Major League, but what movie is it, Dylan?
What, The Naked Gun?
When he's the umpire and he's dancing behind the plate. Yeah, dude, it just reminds me of that. Like, he hears the fans, And he was like, "What was that? You want to see a strike? It's clearly a ball." He's like, "Strike!" And that's just what it feels like. He's like, "I'll give you what you want." Now, unfortunately, I don't think it's what anybody wants, but it's what they want. And I don't know if it's going to get better. It seems like, I know the old saying is it's going to get worse. No, that's not what it is. It's going to get worse
It's
before it
gonna
gets
get
better.
worse.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
And it,
You had it, bud. You had it.
yeah, I nailed it. It is getting worse, and maybe we're finally reached that peak of it. And now that they're grading them, maybe we'll get some, results that we're looking forward to. But man, Scott Drew gets, thrown out of the game for the first time in his career. Kelvin Sampson, I mean, I don't know if it was to prove a point or not. I'd need to watch a little more of it. But yeah, it's getting kind of ridiculous. I was kind of hoping Grant was going to get thrown out too. At some point, I saw him wave down the ref, and I saw him. I thought he was putting him on the business end of the conversation, but I guess it wasn't enough to warrant anything. I was kind of waiting for him to get thrown out. That's our guy, but that's my 2 cents.
Yeah, Troy, you're 100% right with the hinting that it was, maybe planned or maybe Sampson wanted to. They were up like 20 or something. He wanted to prove a point to the guys and give his assistant coaches some run time, but still, yet again, it puts the Big 12s under the scope. But I want to go on a point you mentioned. The Big 12 reportedly, I think it's true from all reports you see, is finally grading the referees this year. Connor, why is the Big 12 so late on this? And please tell me this is going to save us from this terrible refereeing we're seeing.
Man, I've been asking myself that same question, Dylan. I don't know why we're so late on this. Like, this has been an issue, obviously this year more than any, but it's been issues for years now, right? Where the refs are clearly either missing calls or just not wanting to make the right calls, right? So I don't have an answer for that. I've been asking myself the same thing. Now, is this going to pull us? Is this going to make a difference? Man, I really hope this is the answer. I really hope this is the answer for it, because clearly this is an issue. And I'm glad that our commissioner was at the Baylor Iowa State game this weekend to see it firsthand, firsthand what is going on. So hopefully he nips it in the bud. We'll see what happens, but I'm praying this works. I'm at a loss. I'm at a loss what's going on. But going back to that video of Sampson, I don't know if whoever hasn't seen it, he comes out of nowhere. I have never seen a man that age run that fast. It was an anomaly.
Oh yeah,
he was proving a point. He was proving a point, man. You got my attention.
Yes, he did. Troy, last thing. What's your grade on the referees this year?
Oh man, I'll give them an F. They don't deserve any better than that. It's a travesty. I think Dallas touched on it. Not unfortunately, it's very fortunate that there's been this many close games this year, and it feels like the refs have won all of them. So they need to give back to the community and let these players play, take the whistle out of their mouth, and just let the boys play. So an F, needs improvement. They may have to repeat a grade. I'm all here for it. A lot of coaching and opportunities on their end of the ball.
There's a SWOT analysis being made right now for the Big 12 refs this year.
Yep.
Yeah.
Not a lot of strengths.
There's definitely not. All right, guys. So from college basketball to pop culture. So this is going to be a little bit of a sadder topic, but we're going to make it fun. We're going to talk about it in a positive light and being in remembrance rather than the somber, right? Toby Keith passed away at 62 years old, but guys, this guy is a legend for country music. I mean, I'll be honest, growing up, I wasn't the biggest country music fan, but I mean, I loved Toby Keith, obsessed with Toby Keith. I mean, listening to him on repeat. I'll start with you, Connor. Kind of what are your thoughts on Toby Keith and kind of what did he mean to you?
Man, kind of like you, Dylan, like I didn't really listen to a lot of country music growing up. Now it started later in life, but one country artist that I did listen to and I knew of was Toby Keith. He's the reason why a lot of kids our generation got into country music. So, I mean, it's a huge loss. One great American, right? There's not another pop or country artist out there that comes to mind that just exuberates America. So he's a huge loss for our generation. He's a huge loss for the country community as well.
Yeah, Troy, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, it's really sad. He was unapologetically himself.
Yep.
And he wasn't going to bow down to anybody. You know, he stood for what he believed in, and that oftentimes was America, right? And so he stood up for that and wrote a lot of songs about that. But Dylan, to your point, like growing up, obviously we were in the same household, so we were jamming out to him and have always listened to him. And you know, happy to see that he was able to pass away peacefully. And I know he's been battling cancer for a long time, and so sounded like he was where he wanted to be and had a lot of peace towards the end of his life.
Yeah, and I'm glad you said unapologetically himself. I mean, whether you believe in his views or not, like, you have to love and respect someone who, you know, is true to what they are and believe in and will be 100%, right? But now I'm going to put you guys on the spot here. Troy, I'm going to start with you. Give me your top 5 Toby Keith songs.
All right, you said spot, but I wrote some down. So I will preference this with saying that part of my Toby Keith experience was in college, actually at Texas Tech. So I was the American Pledge. And with that, we just said, right, he has a lot of songs about America. And so I'm going to go ahead and throw a lot of those in this. But I'll start with one that's not about America. It Stays in Mexico, because it's an absolute banger. You gotta love it. I love it. And it's just a great song. After that, I'm going to go with Courtesy of the Red, White, and Blue.
Classic.
Followed by American Soldier. Then Made in America. And Should Have Been a Cowboy. An honorable mention is How Do You Like Me Now? Because, you know, it's the one that brought us Toby Keith. And it's really just saying, hey, it's almost like Tech Anthem. If you think about some of the seasons we've had. Not many, but some. But yeah, that's my 5.
Yeah, I mean, hey, you can't go wrong with any songs on the list. I'll tell you that. Connor, your turn. Give me your top 5.
I'm going to start off with one that I definitely relate to after a bender of a weekend I had 2 weekends ago. As good as I once was, I am definitely not as good as I once was. The next morning is always hurting for me now. I'm getting up there in the age and not as good as I once was. So definitely relate to that song. I love this bar. I mean, come on, that's a classic. Beer for my horses. I don't have a horse, but damn it, I would get a beer for my horse. All right.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm going to throw back a little bit, you know, a little less talk and a little more love. You got to go a little smooth, you know, some old school 93 Toby.
Mm-hmm.
You got to go back to a classic. And then also, He Ain't Worth Missing. Again, back to 93, baby. Back to 93, when we got introduced to Mr. Toby. So I got to go old school with that one, but those are my top 5.
Dang. Yeah. I mean, again, all bangers, guys. I mean, I had a tough time. And again, I had a lot more time to prepare for this one than you guys did. And I'll be honest, on my list, guys, I think I listed 3 that were off the list. And those could have been my number 1 song. So there are a lot of interchangeable ones for me. But I'll start with my number 5 was Should Have Been a Cowboy. Love that. You sing that anywhere. I mean, it comes on, everyone's singing. They just are. Number 4, Get Drunk and Be Somebody. That's you just got out of work. You know, it's the song you put on. School just ended. It's always a fun time. And it just, you know, gets everyone going. Number 3, Stays in Mexico. Love that song. I'm glad Troy brought it up. I mean, it's just a fun kind of, hey, don't make mistakes and don't regret what you're doing kind of thing. Number 2, How Do You Like Me Now? Love that because it's just the ultimate, like, hey, look at me, look where I am. You kind of wish you were a little bit nicer to me back in the day, right? And then number 1, Courtesy of the Red, White, and Blue. It's just everything America's for. And then seeing the whole story about why he actually recorded it and decided to put it, you know, on a CD and out for the masses. Because originally he just wrote it to sing to a group of troops, right? And they told him, like, hey, everyone has to hear this. Like, this song is, like, everyone needs it. And because of that, he decided to record it. So That one's good, but again, right off my list, beer for my horses. Again, whiskey girl, my list. There's all the America ones Troy named, all the ones you named, Connor. I mean, this guy has so many hits; they're all interchangeable to me.
And I mean, there's a song that none of us put, and it was Red Solo Cup. Like, how did we all miss that one?
Yeah. Yep.
And that was later in his career, and that led us right into high school, right into college. That was that era. I mean, that was iconic then.
Yep. Yeah, I mean, you make a point. And again, another song that kind of gets you ready to have a good time. But Connor, you brought it up, and I'm gonna kind of ask you, but you already mentioned it a little bit. Is he one of the greatest Americans to ever live?
Man, when it comes to rallying around America, when in a time that America needed to be united, he did that. Mm-hmm. He was the artist that did that. After the 9/11 attacks, he's the one that put out the courtesy of the red, white, and blue. He got America together. And for that reason, I think he is one of the most. Was there controversy? 100%. But was it with good intention? Yes. So for that reason, I think he is one of the greatest Americans.
What do you think, Troy?
Yeah, I got to agree. It's right up there with Washington crossing the Delaware and George Bush throwing out the first pitch after 9/11. So I'd say I put it right up there.
The Mount Rushmore of American moments.
Oh, yeah. I agree. I mean, I'll be honest. If you had to change our national anthem, courtesy of the red, white, and blue is in the running, right?
Oh, for sure.
That or Red Solo Cup. I don't know. I mean.
Well said. And on that, we'll move on to the next topic. Nick Saban, guys. Nick Saban in the news. We all thought it was coming. This was inevitable, but Nick Saban joins game day. I'll start with you, Troy. What are your thoughts on that? We've seen him on TV before. This is going to be a good thing, right?
Oh, yeah. It's going to be awesome. I mean, think about he's a lot like Belichick in a lot of ways. And obviously he's the best college coach to ever live. He does a ton of commercials, and he's funny in all of them. And so I'm excited to hear him, be on sports media and see what he has to say. Obviously, what he says is going to hold a lot of weight, so there's nothing to worry about there. But it's a treat, really, right? With someone with that wealth of experience, you got to be excited just to hear what they say and their perspective on things. I mean, he brought the Aflac duck back, so I mean that's all I have to say about that.
Yeah, that is true. Connor, you excited to see him on game day?
Man, I'm excited to see him and McAfee every single weekend. That is going to be a great combination. Obviously, McAfee up with his antics, and then seeing how Saban deals with that, and how he's going to give his analysis dealing with McAfee. I'm excited to see that. I think that's going to make for some good TV.
Yeah, and I think the thing that we'll even see, because he was already entertaining when he went on anytime, but now, I mean, think about it. When you're a coach, you kind of have to hold things back a little bit, right? One, you don't want to say anything to get everyone else all excited and give them bulletin board material. And two, you're probably trying to hide what your team's doing, working on. You're being very calculated. He doesn't have to worry about any of that anymore. So I'm kind of excited.
He's going loose.
He's gonna let loose. I'm excited to see kind of what we get out of him. So I think this will be really big. And he's already had funny moments with McAfee. So just for them to add on that's going to be good. But guys, I just have a question kind of for both of you here, because we see Saban, Brady's going to start on TV next year. You would have to imagine Belichick's going to end up on one of these stations, right? I mean, that's a lot of experience and talent. It feels like we're kind of going into maybe a golden age of sports media. Do you think that the fans are ready for this level of expertise? I'll start with you, Connor. This is a lot of, deep diving and a lot of, you think Tony Romo guessing plays before was impressive. You're about to get some of the best analysis you've ever seen.
Man, I think this is the best time for sports media. What you were saying, Dylan, I think we are going to golden age, because let's be honest, like Tony Romo, as great as he is at guessing these plays, he doesn't know what the hell he's talking about half the time.
I don't know about that, Jim.
So, I mean, if Belichick does go to the media, and then having Brady and then Saban all coming in at the same time. This is something that as fans we've been craving. We've had a lot of personalities come out there like, it doesn't fit. Like I think about the Jason Witten era of Monday Night Football, right? And how that was dark times. We're starting to see the light at the end of the tunnel of, we're already seeing it with Brady and Saban. If we get the trifecta with Belichick, I'm calling it the trifecta. That's what we're going with. I mean, this will be the best time to be a sports fan with these personalities coming in. The analysis, the characters, the personalities. I think we're ready for it. I think the fan is ready for it.
Yeah, Connor said it pretty well. What do you think?
Yeah, sometimes you got to get through your Witten Romos to get to the golden chalice, right? And so hopefully that's what we get. We're 2/3 of the way there. It's going to be extremely entertaining, not just entertaining but informative. And just when you watch them in the segments that they do with like the NFL 100 with Belichick, just the depth and excitement that he kind of provides when he gives his analysis. So it'd be awesome to have that, and to have all three of them at once would be a real treat. So I'm excited for it.
Yeah, I agree, guys. I mean, it's always awesome to see them kind of break something down, whether it's a game plan, anything like that, because just the level of like they make you think about things you probably wouldn't have thought about before. And you don't see that from everyone. I was happy to have forgotten about the whole Jason Witten thing, but Connor made me remember that. I think the trauma put it in the back of my head to make sure that I never saw something like that again. But I think we're really gonna see something special with all these. And Troy, you brought it up, like the Sabans, the Belichicks. Like when you see them talk about sports history, or you see them start talking about what they're seeing in front of them, whether it's the play they're breaking down, they get giddy. They're like all excited, and you can tell they're just loving it. So I'm excited to see that passion. But guys, we'll move on to this last topic today. Shane Gillis. We all love Shane Gillis. We're all big fans of him, and it's funny that anytime he does something that is going to put him into, like, remember, he's very famous right now, so he's already in popular culture, but I'm talking like mainstream popular culture, like your SNL, all that kind of stuff. Someone tries to go at him. So right now you got TMZ resurfacing old podcast clips of him, and it's funny because I don't think they understand that he's being ironic with some of these jokes. Like he's making fun of how someone might think, but they're kind of making those words his. I'll start with you, Connor. I mean, at some point, do you think that people are going to stop, or is it just kind of cancel culture that everyone loves going after people on top? I mean, are we always going to have to deal with this?
I think we're always going to have to deal with it. Is cancel culture going to become less relevant? I think it is, but there's always going to be somebody out there that's going to try to take somebody down because for whatever reason, they're jealous of what's happening to that person. It's not happening to them, whatever it may be. Is it always going to happen? Yeah. Is cancel culture dying a little bit? I think it is. So I think people don't care right now. I really, 5 years ago when these podcast clips first came out, when he was trying to get on SNL, yeah, I mean, people cared. Right now, I don't see a huge backlash.
Yeah, I think you hit it nail on the head there, because I think there were people outraged, but now they're kind of realizing they know who he is, and they know kind of what his act is, and they know a lot of those jokes he makes, like, not actually what he believes or anything. It's kind of him being ironic, right? But Troy, I'll move to you. It's kind of come full circle here, right? With what Connor just brought up, talking about, people getting outraged back then when he got the SNL gig originally, right? Well, now he's hosting SNL. I mean, isn't that kind of funny? They fired him, but hey, we'll have you host.
It's coming full circle even with the show, our show, right? You brought up Toby Keith, and we said that, so it's like, how do you like me now, right? And so now he's back.
Call back.
He's on top of the comedy game, and so he got his shot with the limelight. He took him some time to get there, but 5 years has passed, and now he's hosting the show. And so, I thought it was kind of funny, but I'm sure he'll do a great job and excited to watch it. I don't think many people can say that about SNL in the recent years. So good for them.
They're not a lot of people remember, but Norm Macdonald got fired from SNL, and then the very next year he hosted, and in his opening monologue he said, either SNL got funnier or I got a lot less funny. This is what's happening right now.
Yeah, it's true. I mean, think about it. None of us would have watched. I mean, I guarantee none of us would have watched. But now that he's on, we'll probably catch it. But last thing with this, he also teamed up recently with Bud Light. So Bud Light's trying to kind of rebrand and come back from what they did. What was it, like 2 years ago? Last year? 2 years ago, I think now.
Last year. It was last spring.
Last year. So they're making a move to try to get back, to the top, right? Troy, I'll start with you. That's a pretty big move for them, and Shane Gillis. I mean, I'm sure he's drinking Bud Lights left and right. So, what do you think of this move?
Hey, yeah, he definitely does drink his fair share of beers. So, as far as someone that endorses a product that they believe in, I think he fits that to a T. And so, good for them there. And I think he's a good ambassador for beer. And so if you want somebody to do that, yeah, you can't go wrong with him. I haven't seen too much other than that on it. I know that Bud Light's been bringing on a lot of people, so seems like they're trying to reach a different audience, I guess.
Yeah, Connor, they kind of got Shane Gillis. I think the UFC as well. What do you think of their moves? They're kind of really, teaming up with the brands that they were previously before. I think they kind of want to shake, the image, whether people agree or not. I mean, we're not here to discuss that, right? But they're obviously trying to position themselves to be back on top. What do you think about their moves?
Yeah, I think partnering with Shane Gillis and UFC is going to be definitely the right moves with Bud Light. I'm no expert, but if they're trying to get back to their regular consumer, those are the two brands that they hit the nail head on the coffin. They figured it out. They tried with a couple other different celebrities, just didn't work. I think this is the two right moves for them.
Something that's kind of funny is, if you think about it, Bud Light was canceled by the right side, basically, and Shane Gillis was canceled by the left side, and now they're meeting in the middle to mend these travesties that were caused by both sides. I don't know.
This is going to fix America.
Yeah.
This is what fixes everything right here.
Yeah.
No one knows what to be outraged about anymore.
Yeah. They're like, wait a second.
They're truly trying to meet in the middle here, guys.
Yeah. Maybe this was really the Kylie Jenner Pepsi commercial everybody needed.
Only 6-7 years later.
Yeah.
It ran its course.
Instead of Kylie handing it to a cop, it's
Shane Gillis.
Yeah, Shane Gillis getting a woke person handing him a Bud Light.
To Dylan Mulvaney.
Yeah. This is what we needed. All right, guys. On that note, I think that's a good time to call it quits. So thank you, guys. This was Tortilla Talk, brought to you by Tech and Tortillas. Please follow us on all socials. That's Tech, letter N, Tortillas. And like and subscribe. We appreciate you guys listening today. And as always, guns up.
Wreck 'em.
Wreck 'em.